Showtime!
Ladies and gentlemen, please make your way to your seats.
Showtime!
Please make your way to your seats. The show is about to begin.
Showtime!
Let the magic begin.
John, what's going on with these nuclear batteries that last 50 years without being charged?
Another Chinese article or based from a Chinese startup called Foldable, which they've unveiled a new type of battery called a atomic energy battery. It supposedly generates power from radioactive isotopes for over 50 years without needing charging or maintenance. So apparently, the battery utilizes 63 nuclear isotopes sealed in a coin-sized module that converts the energy released from their decay into electricity via a process that was first explored in the Soviet Union and the US. And so apparently, and I say apparently because this one I'm really skeptical of. Betavolt claims that its battery produces 100 microwatts, which isn't that much, of power at 3 volts initially, but they're aiming to produce 1 watt by 2025. And multiple batteries combined together in series, just like we learned back in school, could be used together for a higher output. Again, there's tons of potential applications. If phones would be great, drones that could fly indefinitely, medical devices, sensors, space technology. So the reason why space technology is because apparently it's stable in harsh environments. So they say that they're safe as the radioactive material is sealed and does not emit radiation, but there is a lot of shielding around it. And if they do scale it up, they're going to have to, as they scale it up, they're going to need more shielding. So after the decay, the isotope becomes a stable copper, apparently. So what they're saying is likely isotopes include, and you'll like this, tritium, hydrogen-3, which is commonly used in neutron generators or radioactive luminous paint due to its low energy and safe emissions. But again, proper containment is key. So again, this is one where I'm skeptical of it. It's based on my understanding of, and again, I'm not a nuclear physicist or engineer or anything like that, but there is potential here, maybe.
There is potential here, maybe. I like your confidence. It's interesting. We were talking about, we just did an episode on 6 gigahertz, terahertz waves and how that could affect us. And how we're moving them closer and up in the amperage and all that stuff. What is going on with radioactivity coming out of this? It's a pretty small looking battery we're seeing. We see a couple different sizes that were coming up in the video we were looking at. Is it, enough to power our cell phones now? And like, how many would we need? And what's the radiation of these things? Like, you mentioned it, and do we really want to be walking around with these radioactive devices in our pockets? But at the same time, I'm asking you about backyard nukes, right? So
exactly. Like I think that this would be a great technology to replace like those Tesla battery balls, right? Because then it's not right up against your skin in your pocket. You're a lot more distant from it. There's different things like that, or even in cars. But I'm not sure if obviously it definitely needs to scale in order to get to the power needed for cars. But to be honest, I don't even know what the draw from a cell phone is. I have to look that up. Again, The thing is okay, sure. It could last for 50 years. And my biggest concern is what happens like if you go, obviously, because the operating temperature range, essentially, they claim from minus 60 Celsius to 120 Celsius. So it could survive a plane trip if you go up because they're looking to use this in space too. But what happens if we get into like the battery gate with Samsung? This time, it's not just a regular battery that's not radioactive. We have a radioactive battery. So,
yeah.
Power consumption for a phone is when it's on standby is about 0.5 to 1 watts. When it's the screen's on, it's about 1 to 2 watts, or 2 to 3 watts when you have max brightness and you're doing tasks like video games and stuff like that. Same with browsing and scrolling. So you're talking max maybe 5 watts of use at a time. So, and they're talking about their goal by 2025 is to get it to 1 watt.
Yeah, and that's a 15 by 15 by 5 cubic millimeters. As if you can take a look here, it's pretty small.
Yeah, you put like 10 of those, you've got the same size of a regular battery, cell phone battery.
I don't know how big the batteries are in the cell phones anymore because they squish them and make them and they pour them and they do all this different stuff and fill in all the gaps with batteries. So it's hard. But yeah, you would figure they'd be, obviously you wouldn't want to do that with this technology. It'd need to be shielded better. But yeah, it doesn't sound like it's too far away, especially, if one is to generate 1 watt, you get 3 of them in there from a generating point of view. Combination of this and regular batteries, you have these just charging your batteries on the go. So your regular lithium ion or some of the sulfur ones that we were looking at or talking about the other day, I can't remember what were those solid selenium, solid state selenium. Yeah, sorry, I know it's sulfur. Jeez, I'm tired from I said sulfur. I'm tired from last night's drinking event. That you combine these things and it looks like you would have something, right? Because even if at full power you got a phone that generates 3 watts, at a time, but you're consuming 5 and you have the combination of a lithium ion or solid state selenium in this, it's just charging it when you're at low usage and that kind of stuff. So I could see a combination of these things working if people are willing to deal with the radiation of this. And are there any costs? Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, and that's if cell phones continue on the same path. Like we just did something on the Rabbit R1 and we talked about the humane pin. If they get smaller like that, who knows? Like this one small little cell could power those things, right? Because they have a small screen or no screen and very little interface. But
yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we could do here. We are talking about the glasses, AR, VR. We're talking about a lot of these things that the problem, even the autofocusing glasses, the problem, a lot of these things is battery life. And, as battery life, something like this actually looks very promising because it solves a bunch of issues. Like we're not just throwing batteries out all the time. So environmentally and recyclable, it's better. We're not using as much ideally of rare earth minerals because there's a lot of, but again, we don't know what mass consumption of this looks like or what we think we can get the costs down to.
But this, remember we were talking about wireless energy for recharging. That would eliminate the need for that. So one less signal that we would need, but we're trading it off with some radioactive isotopes.
Yeah, I think we're going to end up with both.
Yeah.
So. And again, I think some of these things will be, especially when they get started. If we're looking at 1 watt in 2025, we're, that's 11 months away potentially. It's not far. So people could easily be thinking about, okay, how do I put this in my products? If I was a cell phone manufacturer, I wouldn't want to be the first with this because. Yeah, you don't want to be that person unless they've done a lot of safety testing because you're putting the phone right beside your head, right?
Well, there's if we take Apple's adoption into consideration, Apple probably wouldn't put this into their phones for the next 50 years. They're so slow to adopt new technology, right? So.
Well, that is absolutely funny. Apple is, used to be one of the people forcing the market ahead.
Yeah.
And now they're dragging their butt on everything. Like they don't have touch screens in their laptops. They don't have foldable screens. There's a lot of things they don't have. and they're really starting to come behind. Now, don't get me wrong, like their touchscreens on their iPads and stuff are great.
Yeah.
But I think we all figured they'd be a little bit closer from a touchscreen interactive by now.
Yeah. Well, even the software, like they're just implementing features now that Android has had for over 10 years for some of them. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, I used to say these phone companies leapfrog each other. Like every 6 months, one will come up. But now I think Apple's just way behind.
Yeah, Apple's way behind. And the thing is, though, is I get it. They are releasing phones that just work. Like, that's all it is. Like, it works and battery life is good. But if you want additional customization features and things like that, and they finally, like with iOS, I think 16 or 15, they introduced some widgets, which Android had since I think one of the first two iterations of Android. But it's just it's nuts.
Yeah, you say, it just works. That's kind of debatable, but it's way behind and it's overpriced now. So people really need to start taking a look. Like, I love your foldable flip phone.
I love it. The battery life is crap, but yeah.
But that, those, you got the first one of that model, right? And it's amazing looking. If people haven't seen it, the foldable color touchscreen is amazing.
Yeah.
And you got that thing on the outside, the screen on the outside to tell you the stuff going on. But yeah, that's way better technology than what this has been for how long, right?
Yeah.
And there are so many technologies we should be jumping forward in the ecosystem, but they are the laggards. They're falling behind. They closed a couple stores recently, and that's usually a sign for me that's it's not what I wouldn't say the beginning of the end. Apple's not going anywhere.
No.
But their market cap's going to drop a bit because they really need a shakeup to figure out what's going on. And I don't think their VR glasses are going to be the next big thing.
No, but I think they did just overtake Samsung as the world's top smartphone seller, which great for them. Just people
Absolutely.
The thing is Apple's done a great job of once you're part of the ecosystem, that's it. Like, you're in, and so
they lock you in,
yeah, they lock you in, which is why they probably don't innovate so much, is because they have you locked in, and you're kind of forced to keep upgrading to Apple and getting the new devices and things like that, especially when they start slowing down your phone because your phone is getting old, like craziness.
Yeah, obviously they got sued for that. But yeah, they need to definitely step up their game. Not only did they overtake Samsung as the number one phone seller, but Microsoft overtake them as the highest market cap. So they're losing market cap at the same time as, and going into the streaming world, they got to be losing money hand over fist, profitability on different levels. Their profit margins are lower than ever now. So it's interesting to see where their next big thing comes from, because the iPhone and the App Store and iTunes is dwindling now, not increasing, I think.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. There's one product of theirs that I absolutely love, even though it doesn't have a touchscreen. It's the MacBook Pro. I even have one that's 12 years old that I can still use on a daily basis with no problems at all. So their Mac OS and their design is good, but not a fan of anything else really. It's just mundane.
And again, I'm not hacking Apple. I'm in the Apple ecosystem. I'm on a M1 Mac Mini now talking to you, and I've got a MacBook Air as my daily driver.
Yeah.
And I've been using Macs for years. I used to be a Windows only person, and I, thought Mac people were losers or whatever. And then, whatever it is in that Windows Mac environment. And then I tried it, and it was amazing. And I tried it for different reasons because I was doing development at the time, and didn't look back. So it's just one of those things. You either like it or you don't.
Yeah.
But yeah, you get locked in the ecosystem because I have the apps that map on my iPad, on my phone, and on my Mac. And if you go switch to Windows or something else, you're like, okay, well, I need apps that integrate with all these things. Anyway, back to nuclear batteries, because we're
way off topic, but hey, that's great.
Yeah, because that's the other thing. We're talking about laptops. I want to see nuclear battery in my laptops. I want to
Yes.
not have to plug in be worried about, especially with my MacBook Air. It's great, but I've got an old one. I'm going to upgrade this year. But I start doing any sort of audio editing or any sort of thing that you choose up the CPU, and the battery drops so fast.
Yeah.
So you got to be near a charger if you're doing heavy work with it. Something like this would really change things. So if the future plan is to get 1 watt in 2012, when are we going to see commercial viability?
Yeah. I would say there's a whole bunch of hurdles before they get to commercial viability. There's certifications and testing that are going to be required. A lot of testing, a lot of different certifications. There's so much so many hoops that they're going to have to jump through. Even if they get a viable commercial product that is like working, honestly, I would say if they can demonstrate it and pass everything, I'd say 5-10 years.
Yeah,
Because,
that's not far away.
No, because like if they can produce a cell that size that produces 1 watt, you put 5 of those together, that you get your 5 watts max, which is what a cell phone drains max. That's probably about the size of a cell phone battery currently. So yeah, I don't see it, but again, as long as they can overcome those certifications and testing hurdles that are going to be quite extensive, much more extensive than any other battery technology, right?
Yeah, and I think you mentioned it when we were talking before. I see this being put into drones and other things that are a little bit farther away from humans at first.
Yeah.
Although you might handle it or whatever, the most it's flying or it's away. It's not physically on you or your laptop sitting, near your junk all day long, seeping radiation. These things aren't good, but that's why those things. But yeah, 2030, I'm all in. This looks like a great leap forward to be moving, and we'd love to start seeing these things go big. When I say go big, I'm talking about let's start replacing solar cells and large batteries in homes to start dealing with the power grid problem. When we have homes that can regenerate power, maybe it can't handle its max load, but you got batteries, you got this, you got that, and you're always recharging. You've got a different kind of grid and world at that point.
For sure. Yeah, our power grid is so old and it's so fragile. We need some sort of solution soon.
Yeah, and everybody loves those EVs, and they take so much power, more than all your other home stuff combined, which is great. But what does that do to the grid? And we've talked about that before. And we need some solutions for these things. We
do. Yeah, this definitely cannot go into EVs because what happens if you crash and that seal breaks? So unless they get something there, but yeah.
Yeah, that's why I'm thinking in the home where you charge your EVs, right? So if it's generating power and you can do a slow charge, or it's charging batteries in the home, always keeping it charged, so you're not drawing from the grid as much, you've got a different kind of solution.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, now you're living with a radioactive. Now we're getting close to backyard nukes.
Exactly. Yeah. It's we're getting to there. This was a concept back in the 50s, 40s.
Absolutely.
Wow, that was amazing.
See you later, alligator.